I would like to call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. and welcome. For the audience here tonight, my name is Erica Landman and I am president and serve as the presiding officer over the Board of Library Trustees meetings. In consideration of others and the business conducted tonight, please silence your phone and any other electronic devices and refrain from speaking unless recognized. Again, this is a public meeting for the community of Glendora. We appreciate and respect your participation here this evening. Can I request an oral roll call to be conducted, please?
Trustee Chu?
Present.
Trustee Flowers?
Present.
Trustee Tolan?
Present.
Vice President Johnson?
Present.
President Landman?
Present.
Let the record show all trustees are present.
Yay. Okay. All right. Next is a Pledge of Allegiance. And I would like to call up Marlene Flowers. Yes, welcome.
Please join me in saying the Pledge of the Allegiance. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. All right. Does anyone wish to reorder or add to the agenda? Okay. Okay, next is a public comment. I would like to open up public comment. I would like to invite members of the public to address the legislative body. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, speaking once on both on and off agenda items. If you're in attendance, please fill out a speaker card and submit it to the recording admin before the close of public comment period. Once recognized, speakers should advance to the podium, state your name and the subject matter you wish to discuss. Are there any speaker cards?
No, there is not, President.
Okay, thank you. I would like to close public comment period. Next is the board statements or reports. Does anybody have a report or any information they'd like to share?
I don't have a report, but I will be meeting with the Glendora Public Library Friends Foundation next Tuesday, June 25th for their quarterly meeting. So I'll report back when we meet again.
In September. Thank you. Trustee Flowers, do you want to say anything?
No, I'll reserve my final comments for final comments.
Okay, all right. Vice President Johnson or Trustee Chu?
I'd like to share that in another week, an entourage will be leaving for San Diego, and we are very excited to be learning about all that we can at the American Library Association National Convention. So that's going to be an incredible experience. I'm very excited to go.
You are very lucky.
Very
And
lucky.
I am missing out. I'm at a dance competition. So, who else is attending?
And then we have 3 staff that are also attending.
Oh, great. Okay, have fun. Look for read products for me. Those are fun. Okay. All right. So I have a little report, and what I did, I have a video and a report. So what I'm thinking is I am going to read the information first, and then a couple of things I just have to point out on the screen. And so just background, and I wrote it down so I could like stay focused and not go off, but let's see. And I went and I visited the Riverside Public Library, the main public library, because they have 8 libraries. And so this is one of the 8. And it was recently remodeled, recently created, I should say. And it was primarily consisting of grant money, approximately 37 million in grant money for the reconstruction or creation, I should just say creation, and came to about 40 million grand total. And so, okay, I will go ahead and just give you a little bit of background. So the Riverside Library is a 4-story building with one entire floor dedicated to special collections or archival realia, as well as an added archive on the ground floor. So maybe you could show the first. So that's the library. It's a very interesting setup. The bottom area, it's actually just a breezeway. And it's more of a wind tunnel, but it's like a breezeway. It's super cool. As you enter the library, I was struck by the immediate openness as well as a very well-planned flow on the first floor. So you have to actually take an elevator up to the first floor, the main floor. The area let in natural light and even included an area dedicated to local history in a very prominently displayed location on one of the first shelves as you walked in. There's a vintage Steinway piano that patrons could book 15-minute play sessions on Friday nights, as well as the Molly Carpenter Innovation Center that was complete with a green screen video recording area, a music recording area, as well as a 3D printer. And there were more things too, but those things stood out. Maybe you want to check so there you go. There's a little self-checkout kiosk, but that's the Molly Carpenter Innovation Center. The library houses the MLK Civil Rights Collection that began 1 year after his death. The study rooms were plentiful, so you could, I'll just stop here. That's okay. So this is actually a Chromebook checkout center, and you go and you put in a code, and then you could actually check it out. So yeah, go ahead and play it. There's not going to be any sound. So she had put in her code, and then it pops out a Chromebook, and the patron could borrow it for the day or however long they wanted to. But that was really good, truly adding a lot of access for the patrons, and that was exciting. Okay, so the next one. Okay, this is where the study rooms start up. So the picture on the right with the globe and the book collection and the picture of the individual standing there, and okay, that's the original Carnegie Library of Riverside. And what happened was they added on to it, then it suffered problem because of an earthquake that came up, and then they had to eventually knock it down, but they did keep items from within it. So they kept the globe that's pictured with the guy right there, as well as the globe. It was beautiful. It looked like Tiffany glass or something, but they had both globes in that room because it's the Carnegie Reading Room. And then the books, those were his, let me get his name. So Joseph Daniels' daughter's young adult book collection. She unfortunately passed away from tuberculosis. And so he wanted to keep that in her memory, and he shared that. So that was cool. And it's the original bookshelves from the Carnegie Library. And there was also the original table. Okay. And then let me see, you could go to the next slide. This is the archive area. Okay. This was my personal favorite area as a former archivist. This is completely, this consists of what the second floor is all about. Special collections, archives, behind a firewall and fire door, and there are different realia pieces within here. The Bibles in the lower right corner, those Bibles, one is from 1566 and the other one is 1611. And those are the oldest items in the library. Yeah, it was insane. So I was just so impressed, with everything. And so they had a bunch of pictures from the city hall and a lot of city memorabilia that the city didn't really know where to put. And so then they included it into the library's collection, which was exciting. Okay. And then the second is that the video. Okay. All right. Here's a video. All right. There's two videos. So the first one on the left, she put in a code And then the stacks went and moved and in order, and then I got so excited by this that I pushed pause and then I continued recording because my inner archivist was going nuts, but you could see, and then they have a sensor. If you see in the video on the left, there's a little kind of black dot above the track, and that's a sensor, so somebody doesn't get squished inside of it if they're working and it gets closed on accident. But it was a space saver and it allowed for more realia and more items to be kept. So that's an example of movable stacks. And then next. Okay, this is the children's section. I love the children's section. The children's section of the library wrapped around the main floor and was easily navigated and cataloged. So if you look, they have different authors' names like Pilkey, and I can't see past it, but okay, okay, thanks. And so those are the authors' names. And then on the far left, those are commonly searched topics. And so the books are kept over there, nonfiction books primarily. It's very well lit. It's circled, it like encompass the edge of the library. And so in the center, that's the main reading area for the adults. So they weren't really isolated. They were incorporated into the library. So I really like that. There was, sorry, I can't read it from here. I'm blind, but the books, Vox, okay. And I found out that the Glendora Library is going to be receiving Vox books, but they're translated books into multiple different languages. And it will be read to you. No?
So,
Did they have a different one?
yeah, the actual Vox books
Mhm.
are basically the old school read-alongs that would come with the
Yeah.
cassette or the CD, but it's now included on as a device on the book.
Yeah.
There are some that are bilingual or translated. But
Oh,
that,
okay.
but Vox books itself, that is not what they are. There's parts of the collection that are. We will be getting some that are bilingual or translated. But it's the Vox books are really the new version of the read-alongs, the all-in-ones.
Makes sense. And I was really impressed with that. So they had multiple different languages available and that's good that they are like the read aloud. So that's good. And they also have created from the Riverside Riverside Museum, the Riverside Local History resources. And so it's like all the commonly searched topics for kids in elementary schools or high schools when they have to do reports. It's right there. There were about like 5 volumes. And so it just depended on which volume you wanted to look at. And then this is the toy loan. That was so adorable. I love that. I know it would probably be a cataloging nightmare, but it's very popular. And we used to have one at Finkbeiner. I don't know if we still do. And I grew up with the toy loans. I would go and I would check out different toys. See the folder, the kids will go through it and then they choose what they want. And then the librarians will run back, the staff will run back and get it. So is there any, okay, this is images from the archives and the archives are on the ground floor next to the breezeway. They average about 60 patron visits per month. And let's see. Primarily it was of in-person or phone calls. So it was primarily phone calls and the big topics are genealogy, local history, as well as history of the homes. So that's there. And they had a little Dewey Decimal, the card cal. Yeah, that brought me back in time. So that I like that, but I like seeing that. But that was from the old Carnegie Library as well. And they also had a really large table that I didn't take a picture of. And they have plot maps and a lot of things from City Hall planning. Okay. I think that's okay. All right. And I think I went over 3 minutes. Sorry. But I was so riveted by this. But okay. And then I have one other little little comment. I attended the Serving with a Purpose program a couple months ago now, or no, back in May. So the big topics were on fundraising and supporting the right to read and unbanning books. So the biggest point regarding fundraising was to make it a process and to get people excited about the project that is being introduced. And for example, I just created one, but just an idea, but it was cool. Be a protagonist in the Glendora Library story. So I thought that was cute. I could see as a t-shirt and stuff. And then also regarding unbanning books, there were a bunch of stories of librarians actually being threatened due to controversial displays. And just to keep in mind that the library is not a neutral space. So, okay, sorry for taking a lot of time, but I wanted to share that. Does anybody have any questions about the Riverside Museum or library?
Is this the one that Moises had spoken about when he was here a couple months back? Okay. It seems like it's worth that visit.
Yes, and to have a tour. Apparently the Library Board of Trustees have a room for themselves, but I didn't see it. I was primarily staying the longest time on the second floor.
Was this did you book a tour? Is that how? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I asked Adam and Moises if they could connect me with the librarians just to see like what other libraries have, when one day if we start discussing different plans for the library, just things to be aware of that's offered. And they set it up.
I'm so glad that you did that and that you came back and shared all that knowledge with us. That's really great. Thank you.
Had a fun time. Anybody else? Go ahead.
I have a question about the children's library area. Was there a setup for like cozy couches that you could read to your children? Was there some sort of like?
Yeah, I couldn't include all the pictures that I took. I took about like 60 pictures or something, but yes, on the perimeter, they have windows, all natural light, and they also have curtains, but it's not curtains, but it's like a pull down blind, but it's electric. And there were couches and bean bags and just all of that. It was a very welcoming location.
Nice.
Yeah.
And did they have a separate section for teens?
The teens, it was actually in the Innovation Center, Molly Carpenter Innovation Center. That was where the young adult books were. There were also a few computers that were huge screen computers, like
That would be a similar setup to LA Central Library, who has their teen section in the innovation area.
yeah. And the Innovation Center area, that was phenomenal. I couldn't even believe they had a 3D printer. That's cool. Staff goes and assists, of course, with that. So there's always a staff member helping.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really valuable.
Cool. Okay. All right. Now, I would like to invite the director or staff liaison and attorney statements. So do we have a report for the library director, from the library director and library divisions?
Thank you. Yes, indeed, we do. This report will be provided online. There is, as usual, a written report for the month, and it will be provided online. It is available here in the chambers as well for those attending. I have only a few updates since that report went to press. So first of all, we acknowledge there is no statistics summary that was provided. We will include that in the next meeting packet in September, since that will provide the May to May comparisons. And then, of course, we'll get up to date with the statistics that we would usually show you in September as well. Since we last met, and well, actually just since that report went to press, there was a city council meeting in which the mid-cycle budget was approved, and there were many requests from the library that were incorporated into that budget. Some of them were, what you might consider housekeeping things like money for utilities that are costing more, that kind of thing. Some things I just wanted to highlight for you that were included were combined in from two different approaches and two different and multiple accounts, about over $20,000 for additional training and leadership opportunities for library staff. Some of that includes opportunities if they are serving in leadership roles on committees and that sort of thing. For travel, also includes the ability for us to support attendance at this fall's California Library Association conference as our staff development day. So the idea would be that we again would close like usual, but we would all be in attendance at that conference at the same time instead of being on site at the library. So that was included. Also were funds to revisit next year our National Library Week celebration, which we did as a Library Month celebration this year. We also have some funds to help free up some staff time and experiment with having some of our book jacketing and item labeling done before the materials get delivered to the library. So our staff can do things that are much more specific to the community instead of processing those materials. So we'll see how that first batch goes and see if that works out for everyone. And then look at moving forward with that further if it seems like a good plan. But we're looking forward to having those staff be able to use that time in other ways that are much more specific to our local needs. In terms of our reduce, reuse, recycle role in the world, we are working with the Friends Foundation on ways to address materials that are no longer being used in the library and how to find them new homes. So we increased our postage next year in case our future partners require us to ship our materials out for them to find those new homes. And then also we have some funds, quite a substantial amount, 30 for us anyway, additional 30,000 to explore getting some contract help on public relations and marketing. So those are just some of the highlights of things that were included in the city's budget last week. And also there was an address on the state of the city. And I just wanted to sort of summarize a couple of slides that were shared that evening. One talked about the community survey that was done regarding the funding of possible capital improvement measures for the library and for a variety of other city facilities. So that particular slide summarized those findings. Some of the ones they pulled out were that the following, let's see, received 57% likely support indicated from the survey respondents was to build a modern library that is flexible, large enough to serve needs of community with spaces for programs, events, studying, training, and expanded collections. 58% to repair, renovate senior center, teen center, including roof repairs, improving access for residents with disabilities, updated activity spaces, and 60% to ensure that all community facilities meet current building codes, safety codes, proper access for seniors and those with disabilities. So those are some very focused expressions of what those funds would do. That's not the entirety of the exploration in terms of what the funding would be needed for. But those give you some idea of what types of things there is support for in the community, at least at those percentages that I indicated. So that was just a single slide that I wanted to just share verbally with you. And then, because again, this happened since our packet was, since our report was put together. And then there was another slide that just very briefly summarized what you have heard many times about the library building itself, our current bricks and mortar structure. It's a little bit about, its history and how the structural concerns were identified, and just, revisiting the estimated costs as of 2023. Basic critical maintenance and structural repairs, 5.1 million to just a little under 8. And then going all the way up to a new library building, anywhere from just under 36 million to over 70 million. So, and again, none of those would be new figures to you to have seen, but just wanted to mention that those were shared at the State of the City last week. And as much as I can, I'm happy to answer any questions or get answers for them if you have any. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? I was just wondering, is the library conference in Pasadena? Is that the one that you're
Yes,
talking-
that's correct. The one, yeah, they alternate that one usually. Outside of other things like pandemics, they usually alternate that in Northern and Southern California. So this year, since it's in Southern California and very nearby in Pasadena, we're hoping that we can make arrangements to use that as our fall staff development day.
Awesome. That will be fun. Okay.
Just for clarification, so there will be a future agenda item on the results from that survey.
We have yet to work on that with with city administration. So as they decide how to unroll the results of that survey, then we'll figure out how to present that here. All I can say right now is that that's what's been shared so far.
Okay, so we're looking at the fall
Yes, I had
for
heard,
finding out.
I had
anything.
heard that possibly like September
Okay,
of
I
that.
see. Okay, I will stay tuned till then.
So we had several staff at the State of the City. I don't know if there was any other context provided at that time. So, or our councilman who's here. Okay, so yeah, so
Is there a way for you guys to share the actual wording and the questions that were in the survey with us?
yes, we'll definitely.
Or the update in the fall?
Right, yeah, we'll check in again with city administration and find out if all of that is finalized to an extent where it can be, yeah, it can be
Okay,
shared,
great.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Chu. Okay. For the special item, this is the recognition of outgoing trustee Stephen Flowers, whose birthday is also on Friday. So happy birthday. And so,
Ma'am.
I would like to, let me see. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and invite City Council member, Michael Alowis to make a presentation.
Well, good evening, President Landman and esteemed treasurers and trustees, actually not treasurers, trustees and staff. I'm here tonight on behalf of the mayor and the entire city council to present this unique and special certification and recognition. You ask, why is it so special and why is it so unique? It comes with its own case. And it bears the name of Stephen Flowers. So that's kind of make it kind of a little special. I don't think you're going to have another one with your name in a special case. It reads, in appreciation for your service and leadership to the Glendora community while serving on the City of Glendora's Board of Library Trustees, 2021 to 2024. And Stephen, it's great pleasure that I present this to you because I was the one that twisted your arm to get on here. I so ordained, and it's a great honor and privilege that you are serving and you have done this. You've brought an awful lot to this organization, and your colleagues are shaking their head yes. And I know that you're going to be doing great work and great things ahead of yourself, and we're all in support of that. And whatever I can do for you personally, I'm there for you. But with that, I'm going to give you your special cover. And
Let's do the chair. Chair.
Everyone's on their good side?
Thank you very much. I will. Thank you, thank you.
Hey, we're missing one. Wait, we're missing cameras.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Counselor, for encouraging me to come into this role. It's been a tremendous 3 years. I've got to work with some outstanding people. I'm a man of few words, but I got a little speech that's going to begin in the 2nd century BC. The city of Alexandria was considered the world capital of knowledge, chiefly because it had a great library, one of the lost wonders of the ancient world. The Great Library is lauded by historians as one of the largest and most significant research and cultural centers in antiquity, the loss of which had major impacts on social, cultural, and leadership development. Oftentimes, when we discuss the destruction of the library, folks mention a great fire, reducing the library to ash. This is historically inaccurate. The library was not impacted by a sudden, jarring end. It gradually faded over decades and centuries due to lack of support, lack of membership, lack of funding, and lack of strong administration and strong leadership. There is a lesson here for all those who wish to see it. The greatest gift the Glendora pioneers passed through the centuries to us was the establishment of a public library. Funded by the city of Glendora, championed by the Friends Foundation, advocated by an outstanding board of trustees here, I had the privilege of serving with for 3 years under the leadership of, you were the chair, Tomoko, and you were the chair, Brianna, and you are the chair now, and there was Doris Blum before that. But all of us together working to support the library programs and the leadership, such as Director Stone and Cindy and Elke and Donna and Gabby, and the best staff found on our library team. Because of you all, our library is a vibrant, thriving, evolving, and is vibrant, is thriving, it's evolving, and it is preparing. The story of the Library at Alexandria is not fated to be our own. As I look back, 3 years ago, the world looked very different in all of our professional lives and in our personal lives as well. There's been birth, death, marriage. The generational clock makes another round. I can say the greatest joy I've experienced in these 3 years was time spent with our library staff, who are cheerful, eager, creative, inspirational. It was a pleasure and privilege to be part of and lead such a team as our library staff. In 2 weeks, I rotate off this board and return to being Citizen Stephen with a heart full of gratitude for the Glendora Public Library. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Trustee Flowers. And just wait, there's more. Yes. So the Board of Library Trustees and library staff would like to thank you for your service with a small token of appreciation. There's an engraved pen.
A pen.
So,
Library Board of Trustees. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you very much.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Mightier than the sword.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much. Did anybody else want to make any comment or?
I'll say something.
Okay.
I think Steven is probably one of the most like knowledgeable like person about the city of Glendora, given like how much you know and like your service to the community. I've never met anyone who has done so much for our city, and it's really something to look up to and aspire to be. And I just love how you always carry yourself so professionally, and you're always just like a nice and friendly face to see around town. So I really love that. I'm glad I got to meet you through this, and I look forward to continue to see you around in Glendora.
Absolutely. Thank you, Trustee Chu.
Anybody else? Any comments? Well, Stephen, I've known you for a very long time, and I was so happy to get to be on the board with you. And so all the stuff, like all the docenting time that we spent at the museum together, and all the different adventures that we would get ourselves into, and yeah, climbing trees and checking out Green Monster at Plaza Produce. So I truly appreciate everything, and I look forward to further adventures. So thank you, Stephen. Okay. All right, so we would move on to special item number 4, strategic framework review and strategic responses update for May 2024. I would like to invite Library Director Stone for a presentation.
Thank you very much once again. So just a refresher that we bring these to you every few months. We do a bigger wrap up, half year at the end of year. But every few months we come and just talk about some of our wins in terms of the strategic framework within which we work. So next slide, please, or I can slide. First of all, just an acknowledgement that much of what you see is supported by the Glendora Public Library Friends Foundation. For details on exactly which things their dollars and the public's dollars through the foundation contribute to, you can take a look at the director and division reports, because each of those is noted there. But just at the top of this one, we just want to acknowledge that many of these things are highly enriched by the foundation. Okay, so there are 8 elements in our strategic framework. The first of them is just this idea that we need to bring the world of ideas nearby to people. Wherever they are, they need to be physically adjacent to data and in ideas to have the access they need. So here are just some of our wins, again, just since February of 2024 in terms of bringing services nearby. We take our ideas and the public's ideas out into the world, and also bring the world's ideas into the bricks and mortar library. And in each of these ways, we help our community get next to concepts and to developing this world. Some of the places that we go include the LaFetra Center. We participate in Earth Day and Culture Fest, and then of course we also bring programs like the Eclipse and Women in NASA programs to the library themselves. So in both of these ways and many more, we make sure that people can actually be where the ideas are. Also, we enhance the ways that people have access to the world of ideas. For example, whether it's traditional resources like books and CDs, which we managed to get out of our bricks and mortar building into places like the LaFetra Center, or whether it is bringing in new kinds of materials like the repair kits for fixing personal mobile devices, bringing those into the building so that people can check those out. Both of those are strategies we have to increasing materials access, again, whether it is traditional or whether it's new kinds of materials. We also encourage the public to just gather and to celebrate. A couple of big ones since we saw you, National Library Month. We had well over 200 attendees as we closed out our National Library Month celebrations. And then we participated with the Friends Foundation when they celebrated their 30th birthday. We helped kick off Summer Discovery Challenge at the same time, estimated 400 attendees at that. The bricks and mortar building is a key component. It's, as you've seen, there are library services outside of the bricks and mortar building, but it itself is a headquarters and a nexus for a lot of things, and needs to be a flexible and updated environment. So there are lots of ways in which we keep making that true, including our continued rethinking of the way we are using the main floor, creating workspaces, and updating our signage there. Along with all of that goes along with the housekeeping that's in the budget, also some other kinds of housekeeping things that are an ongoing part of our staff time and investment that keep the space safe for our customers, whether that be anything from, exits and how to get out, to fire detection, to testing the generators. And of course, one of our points of pride is that for many of the Emergency Operations Center procedures, we are home based, not for all of them, but for many of them. And that's a point of pride for the library, the library building. And another thing that we will be seeing coming up that's already underway behind the scenes are some upgrades to the library security systems. Okay, so the next element of our strategic framework is that no matter how nearby you are to the world of ideas, there are skills you need to be able to navigate it. Alphabetic literacy is one of those, and of course, foundational one for libraries, but it's not the only one. So we try to develop human skills throughout all stages of life for how you interact with information and the world of ideas. So a couple of big ones right now. The Summer Discovery Challenge kicked off on June 3rd. And as of this morning, early this morning, so I'm sure these numbers have gone up, after 2 weeks of Summer Discovery Challenge, we have over 1,400 participants registered. Yeah, over 4,000 hours have been read already, and over 2,000 activities have been completed. And one thing that I really am proud of our staff about, and so pleased on behalf of the community, is that it's not just a reading program for us. That's, of course, vital. There's no question with the summer slide and with adults also wanting summer reading opportunities, but it really is a discovery of all sorts of other kinds of activities and literacies and learning opportunities in the world. And that's what those activities are about. It's recognizing that alphabetic literacy is really is one starting point for other ways and other skills you need to navigate the world. So so that's pretty exciting that there's a lot of reading and activities being done. And then one of the favorite events of the year, the Battle of the Books, those registrations began on June 3rd. Okay, other things, among other things we teach are critical thinking and problem solving skills. We encourage creativity and a variety of, as I mentioned, literacies. So whether that's bilingual story time, or whether that is interpreting the world of ideas into graphic design through the badge design contest. We have a variety of those that have unfolded since February. Also, particularly with teens, we help them develop customer service skills, leadership, and communication skills through a variety of things, including the Teen Idea Lab and volunteering, Summer Discovery Challenge, and the Youth Advisory Board, and also those who have made a sort of a career of that in the library. We celebrate and recognize them as well. Okay, the next part of our framework acknowledges that you can be nearby the world of ideas and you can have the literacies, but everybody's brain and everybody's body are different. And so not every literacy is going to work the same for every body. And we need to support all those kinds of access. This is one area where we are continuing to try and seek opportunities and learn how to serve the public. And so you'll see another one where I know we're going to need in the next few months to do some more focusing to help bring these areas along as richly as we do the others. So, but we always try to acknowledge we know this is still on the radar, and we're trying to find ways to help the public and find those gaps in service that we can help fill. Okay, now we're moving from sort of the person side of the framework to the data side of the framework. One of the truths about data are that they become inaccessible over time, either because they decay or because their packaging comes outdated. So one of our responsibilities is to make sure that the ideas don't die with their packaging. And we have had some really nice wins since February in this. We launched a Glendora history team with a variety of partners. And the people who've been at those meetings come back so excited. It's really wonderful to see that unfolding. And among the things that we are improving access to are things like the city's Glendora report, the entire run of the Glendora Community News. We're starting to chip away at some of the local phone books as well to make those available online so that they are searchable in ways they haven't been searchable, so that they're available around the clock, they're available around the globe, that sort of thing. Now, no matter how well preserved the data are, in fact, the more well preserved they are, the more of them there are over time, and they get chaotic and they need to be organized in order to be accessible. So what another part of our responsibilities is to make sure the world of ideas is organized and easy to use. And among other things, we have been participating in a lot of staff training for a new city website structure that is expected to launch this November. And it will itself, the website, we expect to be better organized. It also, whether or not it's in November, but you will see over time that it has some features for engaging the public, some sort of interactivity and communication pieces that are not part of the current website. So anyway, there's a lot going on with the staff behind the scenes to get them trained and ready to support that process. And we're already in the process of that. So another aspect of ideas and data that we consider to be sort of a truth is that they are subject to interpretation, they are subject to context, and part of our role is to make sure that people have the tools they need to be able to make their own decisions about the authority of resources and to be able to understand what might be skewing the information they get and what might be repressing information or overemphasizing information. Really, everybody deserves the whole story. So we, refer to sometimes as contextual services. Some of the ways we provide this includes, training people on the best ways to do research. We helped our community development department do that since we last reported out to you. And also, we provide research services ourselves so that we can help provide authoritative resources. You've heard us report out on this kind of thing before. Most recently, as Highway 39 became under conversation about reopening, we provided a bunch of research to the city as they were investigating that. Also, another aspect of information, ideas, or data is that they are property and they can be sold, they can be protected, they can be stolen. So basically, all of those concepts, it's both protecting data that need to be protected and making data available to those who might not have that economic opportunity to access it. So there are kind of two sides to this one. In this case, one of the things we did was during Consumer Protection Week, we provided activities at the library and the LaFetra Center so that people could help protect. One thing that's very valuable these days is your own personal data, and that's a lot of what this was about. Sustainability. This is the idea that that data, the world of information, it requires resources, meaning natural resources, energy resources, and we just need to be vigilant about how we monitor that aspect of our world. When we put this together, this is another area where we are constantly looking for new opportunities. However, as I mentioned, just last week, we did get some additional funding to help in this very area, in that we are looking at new partners who will take our unused materials that we no longer need on the shelves. And we now have some funds to ship those so that they can find new homes where they will get used. So we are indeed making strides here in the sustainability as well. Now, the administration is just to acknowledge that there are a lot of things that have to happen to clear the way for those 8 elements of our strategic framework. And a few of our wins here in clearing the way since February. Lots of behind the scenes things. So there was a mid-year review of this year's budget for the city. There was the mid-cycle budget that I just reported on earlier, and also the Friends Foundation grant requests were due all just in the weeks since we reported out to you last. Staff, of course, really put that here because really staff, they touch all 8 of the responsibilities. So our ability to support them and recruit them and retain them and give the public that access to their expertise, we put it here, although it really belongs in every category. We are under recruit for a full-time library technician. We've been very successful with our part-time library aide 1 recruits. And one of the reasons that has happened is because the city's been a great partner in creating new ways for us to offer jobs to successful candidates immediately, so we can start them through the background process. And in some cases, between first interview and onboarding, it's a couple of weeks, which is in the city world is very, very quick. That's right, 2 couple of weeks at the fastest, yeah. And then also, as you've heard, we have extended the contract for the classification study, and the city, on my part, we provided a bunch of feedback to them since we saw you last, and they are now processing all of our recommendations in terms of how to move forward with the sort of groundbreaking kinds of classifications that we're looking at. So that's now in their hands. Again, back to the staff, this idea of continually developing them. I mentioned some of the budget that we were granted for this, but in the meantime, in the last few months, among the things we've done is that we already had a full day staff development day where the staff, among other things, went and visited some other city facilities to learn about the services they provide. Partly so we can make great referrals. We are the voice that answers the city's main telephone line. And so the more we know about those other facilities and services, the better customer service we can provide to the rest of the city as well. And then we also did some brainstorming, given that there are challenges with the building. And although we don't know the exact calendar future of the building, we know that there's going to be some time when we will probably need to be out of it, away from it. And so we've been keeping the staff brainstorming on the ways to provide services to the public without the current brick and mortar structure that we are in. And so that's part of what we did on Staff Development Day. So that's a quick shot of what we've done in the strategic framework. Like I said, there are some areas where we need to provide some extra focus in the next quarter or so to make sure that we are still maintaining some of those framework components. But we're happy to answer some questions if you have any, or look up the answers if they're data we need to bring back to you. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Thank you very much. The next topic is the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar will be enacted by one motion without individual discussion unless a trustee has requested it be removed for separate discussion. Does anyone wish to pull or comment on any consent calendar items? Okay. I'd like to request a motion.
So move.
A second. Okay. Thank you.
So we have a motion made by Trustee Chu, seconded by Trustee Flowers. I will now conduct oral roll call. Trustee Chu?
Aye.
Trustee Flowers?
Aye.
Trustee Tolan?
Aye.
Vice President Johnson?
Aye.
President Landman?
Aye.
Let the record show motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Next is unfinished business. Self-evaluation of the Board of Library Trustees for fiscal year 2023 to 2024. So I would like to invite Library Services Director Janet Stone to report.
Thank you. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. Okay, so just a review. At the May meeting, the trustees decided to proceed with our kind of recurrent June timeline. Basically, the self-evaluation is a chance each year to, as it's been structured lately, to look at the goals and to do some self-reflection on how the trustees, how you have been performing. And this is your own assessment of how things are going. And last month, we agreed to come back with your evaluations on the June timeline as usual. You were all provided with a fillable PDF that had been pre-populated with those goals and also some other documentation. And I'm happy to report that evaluations were received from all the trustees and they have been included unchanged into the packet, except for putting some names on them so they can be identified as whose is whose. And basically, this is from our point, we just suggest that you review and you file the report containing your self-evaluations.
Did anybody have any comments or questions?
Just quickly.
Yes.
If I recall, the current matrix that we're using now was developed by Trustee Chu. And I wanted to thank you very much because this is going to be like gold standard moving forward of how to simply take a look at what the requirements are, if we're meeting the goal, if we're exceeding the goal, if we've got more work to do. That's a great gift you've given to the library leadership. So I wanted to take a time to acknowledge you and thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? I think, yes, that was a stroke of genius. Trustee Chu, brilliant. So, let's see. Like to request a motion to review and file report containing trustees' individual self-evaluations.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion made by Trustee Flowers, seconded by Trustee Tolan. I'll now conduct a roll call. Trustee Chu?
Aye.
Trustee Flowers?
Aye.
Trustee Tolan?
Aye.
Vice President Johnson?
Aye.
President Landman?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Right, for new business, this is orientation planning for new board members. I'd like to invite Library Service Director Janet Stone to report.
Thank you once again. So just a reminder that this doesn't always happen because we don't always have new board members, but we will have one joining us next fiscal year. First, unless there's a special meeting called, the first regular meeting will be in September. And we just like to review with you what it is we do to onboard our new trustees, so that if there's anything else you need to suggest or are concerned about, that we make sure we've heard your ideas. So first of all, the elements of bringing on a new board member include initial sort of outreach messages when they're selected. Then there's documentation that we provide. The library provides very extensive documentation. That notebook is, I don't know, a couple of 100 pages long of materials. We don't just, deliver that and walk away. We have if necessary, multiple orientation meetings. And there are also trainings that occur from the city clerk's office as well. And we also have a checklist of behind the scenes processes that we go through just to make sure that, you know, everybody has a nameplate and all of that, those sort of housekeeping elements. Just a quick review of some of the prior discussion. No changes were directed to this process in 2021 and 2022. On our own, we have been incorporating more materials into that library orientation handbook. Because we found that that I was usually supplementing it during the orientation and training session. So we just decided to, you know, incorporate those in the master copy. The updates that we make to the documents that we provide include, but aren't limited to, we update the goals and objectives if there needs to do that. We update the strategic framework and usually offer the latest report on the responses. We usually put in the library-related sections of the approved budget. There's a new organization chart. We update the board meeting dates and that sort of thing so that the notebook, many sections of it are somewhat static, but a lot of it does get updated every time. And cheers to Administrative Assistant Gabby Thompson for wrangling all of that. And then there are verbal additions, like or deep dives into some sections of that notebook. Some of them include a little bit more about the role of the education code regarding the Board of Library Trustees, an explanation of the strategic framework so that those concepts can start to be introduced, a little bit about what the budget process is like and what it sort of means in Glendora. Some more about the Brown Act and public records concepts, but that also comes from, there's more, they get even more of that, of course, from the city clerk. And then there are several key policy documents, such as the collection development policy, that are sort of integral to public library service and approaches. And we usually go into those as well as we introduce the documents. On the city side, there's a variety of things that happen. There is a separate board and commissioner member handbook that's different from the couple of hundred pages that we provide. They also have a whole standard process of providing information on conflict of interest filings. They provide ethics training and Brown Act training, information on attendance, of course, the oath of office, and a certificate of appointment. So that's the broad description of all of the elements that go into our onboarding process. We're happy to have you discuss, review those elements, and provide us any direction that you might feel is needed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Does any trustee have any concerns or ideas to add or any thoughts to share?
No, I was just wondering if you, Carrie Ann, since you were the last one to get onboarded, if you thought there was anything that you were missing.
I thought it was extensive, like a lot. Yeah.
Okay, good. My other, I know with the Brown Act, it's very hard too, and we want to be very mindful of that, but I still like the idea of being able to perhaps have a get together of all 5 of us so that we do get to know each other a little bit better and can work better as a cohesive team. Yeah, I know it's difficult, but I do recall from like going to Serving with a Purpose in the past that other cities and their trustees have been able to make it possible where they are able to have a like backyard barbecue at one of their person's house or like at a restaurant, and they do not talk about anything on the agenda, but simply more of a get to know each other. So we're not just like all strangers sitting up here talking about library business. But if there's any way possible, I think that would be great to do in the fall when we're all back from our summer activities. But I totally understand if it's also too much to add to your guys' plate too, to like figure out the logistics and operations of how we can get around the Brown Act.
Thank you.
Not get around it,
Right.
but acknowledge it. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. I have made a note, and in addition to checking in with the city clerk about about the best ways to manage that. I like that idea of maybe checking in with some of my contacts in other cities and finding out exactly how they frame that so that that is a possible thing, like what, what sort of guidelines and principles they use to make that possible. So I will send myself that email right now, and we will report back on what we can make possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I agree that multiple trustees had mentioned it, serving with a purpose, and even just going out to a restaurant after and everybody having like a snack or I don't know, dinner. But that was cool. So thank you, Brianna. Thank you, Trustee Chu. Sorry. Okay. Then I would like to see if we could get a motion and a second to receive staff review of orientation elements for incoming trustees, returning trustees, and staff.
The motion was made by trustee Tolan and seconded by trustee Chu. I will now conduct oral roll call. Trustee Chu?
Aye.
Trustee Flowers?
Aye.
Trustee Tolan?
Aye.
Vice President Johnson?
Aye.
President Landman?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you. And then next item is the Board of Trustees workflow for fiscal year 2025. I'd like to invite Library Services Director Janet Stone to report. You have been busy this evening. A lot of reports.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Okay.
thank you for your patience with all of that. Okay, so the fiscal year workflow, actually, you see a version of it every month in your packet. We provide it, it covers the months July through June, and we maintain it throughout the fiscal year. So it doesn't just say stay the way it gets released at the beginning of the fiscal year. We note any changes if there are meetings that are shifted or moved or agenda items that have to be pushed. We try to keep it accurate in terms of all of that. And each month it's basically a receive and file that's part of the consent calendar. And it's always informational only. It does not necessarily dictate what is an agendized action item. Sometimes these are things just to cue us to remember that we need to report out on them in the director and division report. They don't necessarily all create the listings there don't create action items. And each year at the end, we try to bring you a glimpse of next year's so that if there are any questions or concerns, we can address those before we start providing it live during the fiscal year. So some new approaches to note in the draft that was provided to you for this agenda item. Obviously, we addressed the cancellation of the July and August meetings. Also, we did a little bit of sort of flexible scheduling of our year-end and mid-year reports on goals, metric, budgets, and the strategic framework, because occasionally the availability of data, we don't always have all of those data available in the same month to report out, like at mid-year, for example. So we tried to word this so that there was a little bit of flexibility for when we report out on those different things. And then also, we added some additional coverage of upcoming workshops and conferences so that we can maybe get a head start on things like the local California Library Association's conference, for example. Usually we wouldn't be reporting out on that stuff until after it was over. So we tried to incorporate that as well. So those are just some things that you might see that are a little bit different. Again, it's in your packet, and we'll be bringing it back to you as the fiscal year gets underway. In the meantime, our recommendation is simply to receive and file it, but we're of course happy to answer any questions or take any suggestions if you have them.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments? I have one question. I was wondering, would trustees be allowed to attend the California Library convention or no?
Yeah, sure. We will be bringing that. Yeah, we'll be bringing those opportunities to you so that we can figure out how to make that happen, just like we did for the American Library Association Conference.
Because, is that one in October?
That one, I believe the dates are October this time, yes. Yeah.
And is there a deadline to, sign up?
So they actually they just released the registrations, so we'll have to check on the dates. And I know there are some scheduling things that are completely allowable by Brown Act outside of, outside of being done at a public meeting. So we'll make sure we check in with the city clerk and make that information available to you if there are deadlines we need to meet before we get together the next time. So yeah, we'll take care of that.
Okay, thank you so much. and-
Absolutely.
And thank you for including us. That's very, very kind.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we're so pleased that so many of you are interested, and we are trying to sort of operationalize the way that we get those opportunities out to you now that that's becoming more of a thing of the role of the trustees. That's why we're trying to incorporate it into the workflow differently and also into the ways we budget too. So
Thank you so much. I would like to request a motion and a second to receive and file Board of Library Trustees Standard Fiscal Year Workflow 2024 to 2025 as presented.
I have a motion made by trustee Tolan, seconded by trustee Chu. I will now conduct a roll call. Trustee Chu?
Aye.
Trustee Flowers?
Aye.
Trustee Tolan?
Aye.
Vice President Johnson?
Aye.
President Landman?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. So, board or staff closing comments. I would like to invite any trustees and staff to give any closing comments. Trustee Flowers?
I promise you I'd save something for the end, right? T.S. Eliot said once that the end of all of our journey is to arrive at the place where we started and to see the place for the very first time. And with that, you may notice tonight I'm wearing a Frog and Toad shirt. The series was my first reader, and I was introduced to the books written by the author was Arnold Nobel when I was a 4-year-old at story time in our library, and also they were read to us by the children's librarian, Miss Marilyn. Unfortunately, in 1992, Marilyn Rains' life was cut too short, a victim of domestic abuse. I often think about Miss Marilyn whenever I'm in the library. Tonight, 32 years since she's been gone, I wanted to say her name again as part of our library family, and my final act as trustee is to ask the meeting tonight be adjourned in her honor.
No problem. That's that, do I leave it with trustee Flowers
So,
request, or do I say it as well?
so when we adjourn the meeting, we can go ahead and incorporate his requests.
What was it?
Marilyn Rains.
Marilyn Rains? Okay. All right, cool. And is it Marilyn, like Marilyn Monroe?
Let me read it for the record. For the record, it is spelled Marylin, last name Rain.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's heart-wrenching. Anybody else want to have a comment? I have another comment. I'll just go. Okay. Let's see, I already asked about library board. Okay. Oh, I wanted to make one comment. Tomoko and I, as well as a few of the fabulous librarians, thank you guys, Cindy, Alki, and Donna. And Donna, thank you again for helping me with that presentation. It turned out fabulous, and thank you for letting me airdrop the videos so we can get that going. So that was great. But we attended the State of the City, and just wanted to share one thing. Stephen, I know. We received little bottles of water with the new emblem new logo for the city. So I just wanted to share that in case you start seeing that around. It's here. I know. Oh, I wanted to share that. And I also wanted to thank Stephen for his service again and for the opportunity to be president of the Board of Trustees. The board will be also receiving results soon regarding the survey. So like I said, I think like September-ish, but we'll see. And I believe there will be actual questions included in the report. So, but thank you again. This has been a great year. So I would like to close tonight's meeting in memory of Marilyn Rains. Close it at 8:14. Thank you.